Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Transmigrated to a Medieval Pokémon World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reborn in Naruto World, continuation? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 326, New Year Party Concert Part 2, Trust. General POV. At 9 p.m., when the party had barely started, Phil and Claire walked side by side as they entered. Claire styled her hair into a classic chignon, gathering it at her nape and tying it into a knot. She wore a classy peach-colored dress with a leg split and carried a small red pouch. They have a free Sunday bar. I love it here, Phil exclaimed, his eyes glued to the ice cream cart. He didn't even notice Scarlett Johansson standing beside it, eating a sundae with a spoon before she walked away to join her friends. Hey, guys! Over here! Gloria waved her hand excitedly, calling them over as she sat with the rest of the family. Mitch and Cam, Gloria and Jay, Ted and Frankie were all gathered at the same table in the VIP section. Gloria wore a tight-fitting blue dress with a deep cleavage that made people think she was one of the models or celebrities at the event. She definitely eclipsed some of them in presence. Look, look, look! Brittany's here! Mitchell whispered to Cam in excitement, both of them giggling as they saw Brittany walking toward the backstage, escorted by her security team. Mitchell, this is literally the best party I've ever been to in my entire life, Cam squealed before turning to Frankie. Can I get a peek at the list of all the celebrities coming? That list is private, Frankie replied curtly, leaving Ted amazed by how she wasn't a people pleaser. Frankie excused herself to resume her work coordinating the party and greeted Claire briefly before she left. Cam giggled in embarrassment and exclaimed deflatedly, "Oh. I guess that wasn't really appropriate for me to ask." Jay grumbled to Cam, "Don't bother them, Cam. It's an important party for Edward. I'm not going to bother them." Cam defended himself hurriedly. "Hey, guys." Claire greeted her family members as she and Phil reached the table. "The party is quite crazy, isn't it?" Claire snickered, bragging to her family. "Yeah, Pepper really knows how to throw a party," Jay agreed with a smile. "The drinks, especially, are outstanding." He raised his glass before sipping his whiskey. The hidden CIA agent Sarah Walker smiled in satisfaction as she saw Jay's reaction while holding a bottle of Euphoria drink. Near the stage, Abed was holding a camera as he filmed Maggie. As they paused the recording, Abed told Maggie, "Next time, try not to stare directly into the camera for longer than 3 seconds. Stop criticizing my work, or I'll quit," Maggie threatened Abed. "You hired me," Abed replied casually. "Also, when are we getting the backstage shots? We need to get a few of those before the performance starts." "Let's go backstage, then," Maggie sighed slightly as she led Abed to the location. She had access, so Abed needed her to get inside. The recording was just a hobby for both of them, and the video was for personal use only. Despite their frequent creative clashes, they had become quite close during their time working together. However, as they entered the backstage area, Brittany's security immediately pushed the camera away to prevent any footage of her and chased them out violently. Mickey, Edward's head of security, immediately intervened, placing himself between the mean-looking security guy and Abed. "No cameras," the aggressive guy said gruffly. "Okay, you can calm down now," Mickey said intimidatingly. "Why don't I let him talk first?" "Oh, Miss Newgate. It's you." I didn't notice. I'm sorry. Maggie was a bit taken aback by the sudden politeness but played along immediately. That's okay, Mickey. Just call me Maggie as usual. The security detail suddenly hesitated, wondering if they had messed with the wrong person. They speculated whether Maggie had a connection with the Edward Newgate, which made them change their attitude immediately. Abed quickly explained the situation. I needed to take some shots before the concert and also get some background footage. You guys cannot film Brittany. It's not in our contract, the security detail said gruffly. We're not here to film her. We didn't even know she was here. Why is she even here? Maggie complained. Even Mickey was confused by that. She's supposed to be at the party or resting in her waiting room in the house. Mickey turned to the security and interrogated them. The concert is in 2 hours. She's not called up here yet. Miss Spears is familiarizing herself with the stage, the security detail replied. Just wait until she's done. Mickey didn't press further and took Abed and Maggie with him as he left. Inside the backstage area, Chuck talked to Sarah using his earpiece as he glanced secretly at Brittany. She looked dazed, and she's also crying. Chuck reported. We should get her to a doctor too to see what they have her on. He was referring to any potential medications that were prescribed to her. Time passed by and the party was in full swing. Edward, however, had to watch everyone having fun at the party from the window as he had to hide himself first to make an even greater appearance later. I feel like Squidward watching SpongeBob and Patrick having fun meme. He muttered to himself. Even though he was surrounded by many people, the entertainment was without a doubt targeted at the outdoor party. He wanted the sundae too. Edward, can we talk? Vanessa asked before the concert, and Edward went inside a room with her. As Edward went to the other room with Vanessa, Tara teased Haley about it. Your date left you alone at a party and went into another room with another pretty girl. What could they possibly be doing there? She snarked sarcastically, clearly dissatisfied with Edward's decision to leave Haley by herself. Haley, however, didn't really care. He's Ed. It will be a lecture or a pep talk. All I heard is that she's going to make him give her a penis talk. Are you really not jealous? Tara looked at Haley incredulously. Whenever a girl even tries to talk to your ex-boyfriend in high school, you used to unleash hell on him, she added. I'd never unleash hell. When did I ever unleash hell? Haley was taken aback by the accusation. Tara recounted, you made it seem like it was his fault for her talking to him. You started fights and threw things around. Okay, stop. Haley cupped Tara's hand and continued in a whisper, I have changed. Besides, Edward isn't like the other boys. Oh, what's he like? Tara asked playfully. Trustworthy, Haley replied curtly. Suddenly, everyone in the room heard piano music playing. The sound was coming from the room where Edward had gone. What song is this? Jenna asked in confusion. Phineas replied, I think it's Debussy's Clair de Lune. You, Phineas, why are you saying the pussy? Enid scowled at him. Flabbergasted, Phineas tried to defend himself. Not the pussy. Debussy. He's a classical musician. He must have had a rough childhood, Jacob muttered with some empathy for the classical musician. Not really, Alex chimed in. The word only took on the meaning of female genitalia in the 20th century. So I think in his childhood, it only meant cat. No one is interested in the history of the word, Alex. God, both you and your boyfriend are real perverts. Elsa grinned as she sipped her drink. One throws those words around casually, and the other has the history of it, Elsa said seriously, though a playful smirk on her face made both Phineas and Alex speechless. The entire group of young adults there suddenly became quiet as they were mesmerized by the music. Everyone stopped joking around and they slowly moved closer to the room Edward was in to hear the melody better. Edward POV. Vanessa and I walked from the lounge to the first room. It was a cozy reading room, complete with a lone chair, a fireplace, and a small piano beside it. "You can sit in the chair," I said as I took a seat on the piano bench, facing Vanessa rather than the instrument. I pulled out a notebook from my back pocket and clicked my pen twice. Crossing my legs, I sighed, "So, Vanessa, how can I help you today?" You're not playing therapist with me." "I only roleplay with my boyfriend," she whispered, adding, "if I had one." She snatched my notebook and held it for the duration of our conversation. Vanessa threw her hands in the air, whining, "I don't think I can perform tonight, Ed." "I can't," her voice became breathless as she pursed her lips, tilting her head slightly to give me her best puppy dog eyes, quivering her chin at the same time. Amazed by her technique, I placed my hand on my chin and exclaimed, "Wow. That really tugged at my heartstrings. Did you learn this from Annie? Is Annie here?" I pretended to look around. "Learn what?" Vanessa asked, puzzled. "That Disney princess face," I said, waving my hand over my face in a dramatic gesture. She rolled her eyes and replied, "I'm from Disney. This face is my trademark, not Annie's." She gestured to her own face while trying to maintain the expression, though a smile crept onto her lips. I chuckled before asking her seriously, "Tell me why." Vanessa was taken aback by the question and stammered, "I don't feel ready yet. I still need more training for the dance." "You're already nailing it. And I don't think that's the real reason." "Tell me the truth," I interjected, staring straight into her eyes. Vanessa slowly averted her gaze and lowered her head, clamming up. I sighed and said, "All right. If you don't want to do it, then you don't have to." She looked up at me in disbelief. "Wait. Really?" "Yeah. It's fine." I waved dismissively, not wanting to pressure her further. "So you don't care about me getting back out there and making you more money?" she asked, her expression incredulous. I grimaced. "Do you really think money is an issue for me? Please. You could train for another 10 years, and it wouldn't even make a dent in my finances." So you're not going to try to convince me again? Like you did before, about revenge and so on?" She stammered, slightly taken aback by my straightforwardness. Spite is indeed a great motivator. "But since you've been quite happy these past few months, despite the minor bumps, I don't think it'll work the same anymore." I shook my head slightly. With a smirk, I asked, "Why, do you want me to motivate you again?" No. She waved her hands immediately, a slight blush appearing on her cheeks. I turned to the piano and said, "If you don't mind, I'd like to turn my attention here." The piano looked quite lonely, like it hadn't been touched for a long time. Vanessa sighed in relief and said, "Okay. I'll go tell Pepper that I won't perform tonight." However, instead of leaving, she stayed and watched me test out the keys for the piano. It was maintained well. I muttered, "Do you want to stay for a song?" I turned to Vanessa and asked, gesturing for her to sit next to me on the piano bench. "Come on." Vanessa's eyes shook and she hesitated. "I feel like this is a manipulative ploy to get me on the stage later on." "It's just a composition. It won't take long. 5 minutes, max," I said casually and then waited for her to come to a decision. Vanessa finally relented and sat next to me despite her skepticism. Our shoulders touched slightly as I placed my fingers on the piano keys. "This piece is called Clair de Lune, and it's one of my favorite pieces in the world. Not because of its complexity, but because of the journey it paints," I whispered. I slowly began to play the song while speaking softly to Vanessa. This song doesn't have a grand crescendo or much build. It's not very difficult either, but it's quite hard to nail whenever I perform it in a competition. "Do you want to know why?" "Tell me," Vanessa said, absorbed by the story and the close-up sight of my fingers dancing on the piano keys. "My piano teacher told me that this piece is a journey of introspection. How can he expect a 10-year-old boy to know what that is?" I whispered jokingly. I added, "It's uncatchy and lacks a distinctive rhythm. It breaks harmonic rules that musicians had been following for hundreds of years when Debussy created it." I don't think anyone could win a competition by playing this piece. So why did he make you learn it? Vanessa asked curiously. He told me that it's something I won't understand right now, but I will later in my life. And he was right, I said as I pressed down on the keys gently, entering the waterfall part of the music. Every touch, every breath, every thought, every memory, all of it superimposed together as I play this piece. Some parts make me think of my struggles and bad memories, but other parts remind me of the journey I went through. I fell silent and played the rest of the composition for Vanessa without saying anything. She closed her eyes, and her breath became calmer as she listened. She laid her head on my shoulder as I played the composition again. After it finished, she called out to me, "Hey, Ed." "What?" I replied casually. "If I become famous again, can I still come to your house for Christmas if my family doesn't want me?" she asked, her chin slightly quivering. "You basically live at my place with Maggie now. You're part of the family. Of course you can come, but we're celebrating in Wisconsin next year, so you'll need to prepare a lot of sweaters," I joked lightly. Rather than offer forceful reassurances, I tried to encourage her to think about her future herself. I could easily make her stand up on stage with some personal attacks, but if I learned anything from Hitsugaya Hachiman, though those methods might work, they could also ruin our friendship. Maybe it was because I had been talking with Dr. Linda for a while, but I didn't want to impose my views on others unless it was necessary. She told me that I had a tendency to try and control everything and suggested that I make some changes in my life. Delegating work, listening to other people's opinions, or just listening in general were some of the methods she suggested. I was pretty anxious at the start since every setback could pull my 5-year plan back, but now that I don't have anything holding me back anymore, I could be a little more human, right? After listening to the song, Vanessa was silent for a while before she stood up abruptly. "Gosh, what are you even doing? You don't want to make money anymore? Why aren't you forcing me to go up on stage? You lack the skill to be a good talent manager, you know that?" she accused me without looking, trying to shake off her nervousness. "Hey, I'm also a talent." "You have your own manager," I said incredulously. Vanessa was taken aback for a second before she replied, "You know, I kind of forgot that." I scoffed and asked, "Why are you so jittery now? Have you changed your mind?" "I needed to," Vanessa said seriously. "But if I fail again," her eyes trembled. I interjected quickly, "Then there will be a third, fourth, and fifth chance." "You don't only have one chance, you know?" I stood up and smirked while patting her head. Vanessa went silent for a moment before saying, "Okay then. No takebacks, and I'll perform today. But not the dance ones. I think I still need some practice for that." She raised her pinky, trying to negotiate a deal with me. I sighed as I interlocked my finger with hers and said, "All right, I promise." "And you promise you will become my boyfriend if your date doesn't go well today," she added. Wait, what? I was taken aback by the sudden addition, but Vanessa sealed the deal with her thumb, saying urgently, "No takebacks. A promise is made." She quickly separated her hand and stuck her tongue out at me. Although I was initially surprised, I smirked at her and teased, "I mean, you kinda did a pointless thing. There's no way the date won't go well today." "Really? If I come out of the room with my hair slightly disheveled or my lipstick ruined, do you think she will still be cool?" Vanessa smirked evilly. Then, she dismissed it before I could react. "I'm not going to do it, of course, but if I were her and you left me to be alone with another girl at a party, I wouldn't be cool about it." Her words made me realize my mistake. "I didn't think about that before," I muttered, swallowing hard. After convincing Vanessa to perform again, we both walked out of the room together, only to find a crowd had formed in front of the door. My eyes immediately searched for Haley, only to find her crossing her arms and tapping her feet in dissatisfaction as she glared at me and Hudgens. "Ness, by any chance, will you talk to her first?" I asked Vanessa. Vanessa rushed away, saying, "Sorry, I have to prepare for the concert. I have to start it, so I have no time to mingle." I walked up to Haley and greeted her. "Did you wait long?" "I'm sorry. What were you doing in there with that exotic girl?" Tara asked, interrupting. My group of friends joined us, and Jenna suddenly said, "Why are you the one who's irritated? Didn't Edward show us that nothing happened inside?" Everyone looked at Jenna in confusion. Alex asked, "What do you mean by that?" Well, Jenna stammered a bit, but her answer left me speechless. He showed us where his fingers were the entire time, didn't he? They were on the piano keys. So nothing happened inside the room. Haley widened her eyes in realization and disbelief, immediately relaxing her arms. Oh my God. That's why you were playing the piano? She seemed flattered. Tara's eyes darted around as she searched for other points of attack. He can use other things than his fingers, she countered. Enid nodded in amazement, essentially ignoring her sister. That's really a genius move. Although other parts of him can move, there wouldn't be any disruption to the melody, which would certainly happen if he did anything with the girl. Elsa joined in, that's true. I don't think he could control it so well if he were making out with her or his penis is ins. She couldn't finish her sentence as Enid cupped her mouth, stopping her. Phineas mumbled to himself, is this how girls' delusions work? They create excuses that even Edward never thought of. Alex muttered in relief, thank God I'm not part of Edward's groupie. What were you doing with her? Haley asked me whisperingly as she approached her, holding my sleeve and looked upward to my face. Just discussing her performance. I whispered back. I think we can all move outdoors now. The performances will start in half an hour. You guys need to find a good spot for you to watch the New Year's countdown. I checked the time on my watch and told everyone. Do you have something special planned for it? Should I record your performance? Jenna asked. Enid widened her eyes and scolded Jenna, why are you even asking about that? Record it always. As I led the group outdoors to where the main party was, I pulled Haley to the side and whispered to her, look, I don't want to lie to you, so I'll just tell you what happened. Only if you promise not to tell anyone else. Oh no, I'm fine with it already, Haley replied casually, which took me aback. Really? I asked incredulously. Haley's commentary? I've been friends with Edward for a while, so I kinda know how he works. He gets up close and personal with his employees, he's friendly with everyone except those he can't stand or who have a personality he hates. He can be a great listener. I like him because he does these things. Haley smiled sincerely as she crossed her arms. Also, his face, she added playfully, and his hands. Commentary ends. Yeah, that's between you and her. You don't need to tell me anything, Haley stressed again with a smile on her face. My expression froze slightly. The whole situation felt like a trap for me. If I told her, she could say, I told you I'm fine with it, and get angry. But if I just played it off and said, alright, she'd turn it around on me, saying, really? You're not going to tell me anything? You have something to hide, and got angry again. I couldn't win either way, so I created a different route. I wrapped my arm around her waist and pulled her close. Embarrassed, Haley blushed as everyone watched, clamoring at our interaction. I thought you weren't going to do anything in public, she asked, warily glancing around, but her breath became heavier with anticipation. Well, I know everyone here, so I don't really care, I flirted as I slowly brought her hand to my lips and kissed it, essentially announcing to everyone that she was my date for the night. A lot of girls there glared at Haley from afar and murmured in dissatisfaction. Are you trying to make up for leaving me alone? Haley swayed slightly and whispered flirtatiously, I told you I'm fine. Yeah, I know you are. But you're also my best friend, and I want to tell you stuff. Can I tell you stuff? I asked flirtatiously too. She nodded and grinned widely. Okay, you can. But we can wait until the party's over. We have to hit the pause button on what you're telling me, 'cause I'm pretty sure a lot of people want to talk to you this evening. I finally took my eyes off her and looked around, noticing that many people were waiting to strike up a conversation with me. The pause button was something we agreed on beforehand. Since there were a lot of important people at the party, networking was crucial and directly affected the company, so Haley suggested we pause the date so I could focus on that instead. Pepper walked toward me gleefully and said, "Edward, you finally made it," acting as if I hadn't been shoved inside the house for over 5 hours. "There are a few people I want you to meet," Pepper said as he scanned the surroundings to get the location of where those people were. Haley cleared her throat and tried to move away. "I'll find a spot to watch the performance." "You're coming with me," I told Haley with a smirk, tightening my grip on her palm. "I can't let people think my date left me behind. I'm not a loser," I said teasingly before pretending to realize I was talking about her. "Oh. Sorry. That happened to you before. I shouldn't have brought that up." "Ass," she giggled in disbelief. I grabbed her hand, and we walked to the first couple Pepper led us to. Chapter 327, New Year Party Concert Part 3. General POV. As Edward entered the party with his group of friends, he caught the attention of Phil and Claire, who were sitting at their dinner table. "Oh, they're finally here." Claire stood up and threw her napkin onto the plate after wiping her mouth. Phil quickly calmed Claire down, saying, "Honey, don't yell at them. Maybe her phone has no battery, that's why she didn't answer any of your text messages or calls. I called her 17 times, Phil. Every single time it connected, but she rejected it. She only sent me one message, 'I'm not dead yet, don't worry about it.' She wouldn't even tell me where she was going," Claire replied, her expression angry. Jay swirled his drink and said, "What are you worried about? She's been with Edward the whole time. That kid is trustworthy." Gloria looked at Jay with slight confusion. "Jay, are you drunk? Why are you being so nice?" The whiskey mixed with euphoria had made Jay tipsy, which led him to engage in every conversation. Cam, Phil, and Mitchell felt that they had finally broken down the innate barrier Jay had placed in their relationship and were warming up to him. Jay waved it off, saying, "I'm not. I'm being rational. It's not like they're doing anything wrong. They're just hanging out." Claire sighed. "Well, I hope so." Gloria noticed Edward and Haley at that moment, precisely when Edward wrapped his hand around Haley, pulled her close, and kissed the back of her hand. Gloria muttered in surprise. "Are they dating now?" "What?" Claire scrunched her nose and immediately looked where Gloria was pointing. Everyone at the table followed suit, their expressions baffled by the sight before them. Jay suddenly chuckled. "Oh, I thought this would happen. I was right." Alex walked toward her family with Enid and Jenna to greet them, but before she could say anything, Claire grabbed her and pulled her in close. "Alex, what just happened? Why did Edward kiss your sister's hand in public?" "Oh, they went on a date today," Alex replied casually. "Apparently, it's going pretty well." Cam immediately squealed, "Oh, that's why she's not answering her phone. She's having a great time." Mitchell added, "Her mother's constant distraction must have annoyed her very much." "You shouldn't have bothered her, Claire." Flabbergasted, Claire stammered, "I wouldn't have bothered if I knew." "Oh, Edward didn't tell me about it, even though we met this morning. I would have taught him a few moves," Phil muttered, disappointment evident in his voice. Claire quickly reminded him, "Phil, he's dating your daughter. You don't want him to make a move." On the opposite side of the VIP section, Taylor was having fun with Selena until she froze when she saw the scene. Selena stammered as she looked at Taylor worriedly, let's be rational here. You already expected this to happen, right?" Edward POV. Most of the VIPs had their own private spaces, as they came with family or friends. Those who wanted to socialize could do so in another section. The first people Pepper led me to were the couple who had arrived earlier in the evening, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, at their own private table. The couple stood up to greet me happily as I approached. "Hi, Em." "Hello, Mr. Krasinski." "Thank you for coming," I greeted her casually and offered him a firm handshake while nodding at Emily. "Please, just call me John," he said with a smile. Mr. Krasinski feels too formal. "It's like I'm a school teacher," he joked. "You can just call me Edward too." "This gorgeous girl is my date, Haley Dunphy." I introduced Haley to the duo. Hello, Haley said shyly, while I added, aspiring fashion designer. She's already had her designs in magazines twice and just created her own studio. Ed, stop, Haley grimaced. You're putting so much pressure on me, she joked slightly. Emily smiled softly and said, nice to finally meet you, Haley. I've heard about you from Edward. Really? Haley replied, a bit skeptical, but she didn't press further as Pepper started talking. John is very thoughtful, Ed. You should talk to him. I have somewhere else to be, Pepper said with an adoring expression as he glanced at John before he left. He definitely has a crush on you, I teased John, which made everyone chuckle. Then I continued, I have a question. John, you're going to direct your first episode of The Office? John widened his eyes in surprise, clearly taken aback by my knowledge. Yes. I hope so, he replied awkwardly. Emily turned to him and asked, you're going to direct an episode? Why don't I know about it? I didn't tell you because it's not confirmed yet. Also, I have no idea how he knew about this, he replied seriously, though maintaining his smile. I know a lot of things, John. I'm like Liam Neeson in your debut work in that Kingsley movie. Remember what he asked you in your scene? Startled, John immediately burst into laughter. Oh God. You know about that too? You know you shouldn't watch the movie yet. That scene itself is quite prophetic, isn't it? I teased. What's prophetic about it? Emily asked, prompting me to burst into laughter. John, a little frazzled, tried to change the subject. Emily told me Self-Made finished filming yesterday. I hope the movie will be well received. Emily, pulling herself closer to John, confronted him with a British accent. What are you not telling me? I leaned into Haley and whispered to give her some insight about John's reservation. In the movie, John's character, Ben, was asked, Ben, do you ever perform oral sex on Emily? That's why I'm saying it's prophetic. Haley widened her eyes and burst into laughter. Oh my God. Really? What? Haley, tell me. Emily leaned in closer to Haley now. You're putting me in a real tough spot now, and it's only our first meeting, John joked nervously as he turned to me. I just laughed at his misery and waited for Emily to catch up with the rest of us. Even though she was hesitating, Haley whispered something to Emily, feeling bad for her for getting left out. Emily scrunched her brow at John before turning to glare at me. You must have researched that in order to make fun of us, she accused. I did that after you told me you're dating him, I said casually to Emily. We had a close enough relationship to joke around, and she wasn't offended. We talked a bit about his show, and I even grabbed some drinks from the waiter. Somehow, I managed to get both Billy and myself a tour of the set of The Office. John, do you know what's happening on the top level of the NBC network? I suddenly asked. And why I'm so sure that none of the things you're worried about won't happen. Enlighten me. Slightly taken aback, John chuckled slightly and let me speak. I chuckled a bit and said, it's a secret, but I'll tell you since I enjoyed meeting you today. Again, I only care about the sweet paycheck coming from Netflix, John joked. It is a pretty sweet check, I nodded in agreement. You remember the rumors that Comcast is buying NBC? I asked. John widened his eyes slightly and said, wait, the network is getting bought? Yeah. They are proceeding with that. It might take a few years for them to finalize it, but in the meantime, you're going to see a lot of stupid decisions from the network. Maybe they wouldn't renew Steve Carell's contract after season 7 of The Office. John laughed slightly, thinking I was joking. They wouldn't do that. He's kinda the heart of the show. You'd be surprised. I shrugged. Season 7 was written to wrap up the show after Carell decided it was his last season. However, a decade later, there was news suggesting that Carell would have re-upped his contract if they had talked to him about it. The network exec wanted to change the format and continue the show with different people helming it, pun intended, and envisioned it turning into an SNL-type show where the cast was interchangeable. I have to go meet other people now that Pepper is giving me a stink eye, so why don't we talk more later this week? We should have lunch together. How about it? I asked, and he agreed. Haley and I walked to another table where Jon Favreau was sitting with RDJ and Scarlett Johansson. However, Haley spotted her mother waving at her, beckoning her over. Haley turned to me and said, "My mom's calling." "It's okay, you can go if you want to," I told her. "If you're only going to be here for 10 minutes before going to someone else, then you don't even need to come talk to us," RDJ said dramatically, already sensing what I was doing. I had to. You know, he stuffed me inside the house for hours to make sure my presence would be the highlight of the party? Now I have to move around the tables like a politician scouring for votes, I joked, pretending to be exhausted. Also, I have to talk to several politicians and government employees too. I pointed to the table where some Californian politicians were sitting. Scarlett giggled and said, "You really do live like a politician." "More like a sleazy CEO," RDJ interjected. "I don't like you now. Go away." He shooed me from the table, well aware my time would be better spent getting to know new people. "Don't do that to him. He'll feel bad," Scarlett said, laughing at the situation while trying to comfort me. "I mean, I have a thick skin, so that doesn't really bother me," I joked before adding, "but I do need to mingle. Also, I'm going to perform later, so I'm on a tight schedule." I met with some government employees who pitched ideas about participating in initiatives like an anti-drug movement for school students, charity auctions, and more. Halfway through, one of the staff members whispered, "The concert is starting." Great. I can finally relax now, I muttered, excusing myself from the crowd. As I walked to the stage, I spotted Penny, who was wearing a seductive black dress, jumping up and down while waving excitedly. Backstage, Maggie stood on stage with a wireless microphone, greeting the crowd. The sound of the microphone caught everyone's attention. "Countdown, half an hour until 2010. Maggie announced as the countdown began on the electronic screen behind her. The open-air stage featured 2 LED screens on either side, a semicircular lighting arc overhead, and numerous lights hanging from steel beams surrounding the stage. Maggie had changed into a stunning blue dress made of sequins that sparkled under the spotlight. Reading from her cue card, she smiled and continued, "Welcome, everyone, to our New Year's Eve celebration. I'm Maggie, your host for tonight." The crowd cheered for her. She grinned, a few laughs escaping her lips as excitement bubbled within her, but she quickly continued as time was limited. "Entertainment is proudly presenting our talents for the night, with a few guest stars in the mix. We have an incredible lineup, and I can't think of a better way to ring in the new year. Kicking off our show is one of our own, the beautiful, the incredibly talented, the sexiest fox." As Vanessa was vamping, Frankie scolded her through the earpiece, "Hurry up. 2 minutes have passed." Maggie froze for just a split second before announcing, "Vanessa Hudgens, or as she'll be known from now on, Nessa. I clapped as I watched Hudgens enter the stage, a determined look on her face. Although the name Vanessa Hudgens was extremely popular, she decided to rebrand herself as Nessa to create a distinct identity as a singer, and to remove her affiliation with the Disney brand. It was a bold move as the brand carries her entire career right now, but she believed in the path I laid out for her more. The crowd cheered again as she took the stage. Her long, wavy hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing her face beautifully. With reddish lipstick and smoky eyes, she smoldered as she grabbed the microphone, fully prepared for her performance. For her outfit, she wore a short red dress reminiscent of classic Disney princesses, but with a twist. The dress bore signs of wear and tear, delicate rips and frayed edges adorned the skirt, giving it an edgy, lived-in look. Tattered strands hung from the hem, creating the impression that she had just emerged from a freak accident. General POV. Take a deep breath. Vanessa closed her eyes slightly as she calmed herself before going onto the stage. Everything will be okay. Putting on a brave facade, she waltzed into the stage as the crowd cheered for her. My first song after a long period of waiting for my return to the stage is called Brutal. Enjoy. Vanessa spoke using the microphone, a small smile on her face as she remembered her heated discussion with Edward when he told her to sing the song. Olivia Rodrigo, Brutal. A soft violin melody filled the stage, which made the crowd think it was going to be a ballad. Then she suddenly declared,
I want to be like Nessie.
The band finally revealed themselves and they played the beat for the song. The percussive beat created an edgy and almost aggressive sound. The lights on the stage danced around as Vanessa stood still, only tilting her head as she sang lightly.
I'm so insecure, I think that I'll die before I drink.
She finally moved and walked to the center of the stage, pointing her finger at the camera, acting as if she was pointing at someone.
I'm so caught up in the news of who likes me and who hates you.
Maggie thought of the media coverage of Vanessa and Zac Efron's breakup as she heard the lyric.
And I'm so tired that I might quit my job, start a new life. And they'd all be so disappointed, cause who am I if not exploited?
The fast-paced song made the crowd fall into a trance, not wanting to miss a word of the lyric. The verse made people imagine Vanessa's experience as a child star working in a tough industry.
I'm so sick of 17, where's my fucking teenage dream? If someone tells me one more time, enjoy your youth, I'm gonna cry.
Vanessa traced her finger underneath her eyes, gesturing to the tears. Selena looked around anxiously and muttered to herself, no one is reacting. This is kinda bad. Taylor just smirked and said, just wait. Vanessa stomped her feet, acting like a whiny brat,
and I don't stick up for myself. I'm anxious and nothing can help. And I wish I'd done this before. And I wish people liked me more.
The lyrics laid all of her insecurities and made her shout it to the world. The unfair treatment she had been through from something that wasn't even her fault. She let it all out on the stage. The crowd finally reacted as she finished the first verse. Claire muttered, that's quite raw, isn't it? Phil got some tears in his eyes, then he shouted, go Nessa! As a fan of the High School Musical franchise, also part of the dad group that learns all of the dances in the movie, he knew very well about Vanessa's past. Alex distanced herself from her dad and moved closer to her boyfriend as they enjoyed the music. The crowd then erupted into cheers as she sang the chorus.
All I did was try my best, it's the kind of things I did, I'm relentlessly obsessed.
Vanessa sang while bouncing her body slightly. Edward chuckled excitedly as he saw Vanessa's pouty expression as she performed. Enid was really surprised by the song that she didn't react for almost a minute, just standing still with her jaw dropped.
They say these are the golden years, but I wish I could disappear. Ego crush is so severe.
She paused slightly before singing,
God, it's brutal out here.
The crowd cheered loudly as they enjoyed the song. Vanessa smiled in satisfaction as the catchy beat played. As she heard the cheers, she became more confident in her performance.
I feel like no one wants me, and I hate the way I'm perceived. I only have 2 real friends, and lately I'm a nervous wreck.
Maggie and Edward both raised their hands to cheer for her performance. Vanessa even turned to Edward slightly as she sang, which made Edward startled. Focus on the stage, you idiot. He scolded her slightly.
Cause I love people I don't like, and I hate every song I write. And I'm not cool, and I'm not smart, and I can't even parallel park.
That last line wasn't necessary. Maggie muttered to herself. Even though it was true. Still, it's unnecessary. The pouty way of performing, the little eye roll, the teenage angst vibe made the younger member of the crowd love her new image and supported her greatly.
All I did was try my best, it's the kind of things I did, I'm relentlessly obsessed.
She sang it in front of the cameras, which made the screen filled with her manic expression.
Say these are the golden years, but I wish I could disappear. Ego crush is so severe. God, it's brutal out here.
As the music slowed down, Vanessa stood at the front of the stage, underneath the spotlight, singing to the sky. She crooned, got
a broken ego, broken heart. God, I don't even know where to start.
As the music fades away, the crowd exploded into thunderous cheers for her. Sweating slightly, Vanessa reveled in the crowd's reaction, her heart beating widely. Her eyes were slightly moist, But she didn't succumb to her emotion as she continued her performance. Chapter 328, New Year Party Concert Part 4. General POV. The excitement from the previous performance was still palpable. Eminem scrutinized the song with a stoic face, judging the entire performance. "It was good," he said curtly. "Immature. Yet raw," Katy Perry commented. Snoop laughed slightly and added, "It's too short for me. I can't wait for the next one." The light show suddenly bathed the stage in red. The next song is titled I See Red. "Enjoy," Vanessa announced before the music kicked in. A team of dancers entered the stage, dressed in black outfits and red fox masks. "I see red, oh everybody loves an outlaw." Vanessa sang with a sexy, soulful voice.
Did you really think I'd just forgive and forget? No.
The stark contrast from the earlier performance surprised the audience. If the previous one was a whiny teenager, this song made her seem rageful.
After catching you with her, your blood should run cold, so cold.
The cold delivery induced goosebumps among the crowd. The female audience members who had experienced similar events immediately became immersed in the song.
You're two-time and cheap lying wannabe.
The biting line was delivered soulfully as Vanessa recounted catching her ex in the act.
You're a fool. If you thought that I'd just let this go.
Vanessa moved to the center of the dance choreography and bellowed,
I see red, red, oh red.
The audience erupted in cheers of excitement. Vanessa's vocals traveled across the entire party, which was a treat to the ears.
A gun to your head,
Vanessa made a gun gesture paired with a playful smirk.
now all I see is red, red, red.
Her vocals had transformed dramatically since her Disney days. Rather than the breathy singing voice she usually used, Edward had personally taught her to control her vocal range. It took months for her to achieve this stage. "Hard work always pays off," was what Edward often told her during their training.
Did you really just say she didn't mean anything? Oh, I remember those words when I cover your soul, your soul.
Edward felt a burning gaze on him and turned to see Taylor staring. She slowly gestured a slit at the throat and pointed at him. Edward fell into disbelief as he turned his attention back to Vanessa. No wonder she wanted Hudgens to sing this one, he thought. Vanessa walked to the left side of the stage, flanked by two dancers, bending slightly at the crowd and singing to them.
Know that you dug your own grave, now lying in it. You're so cool, but revenge is a dish best served cold.
She immediately moved to the center of the stage. The mesmerizing choreography by the dancers and her stage presence kept all eyes on the performance. Ashley Tisdale, Shay Mitchell, Ashley Benson, and Brenda Song shouted in excitement, rooting for Hudgens.
I see red, red, oh red. A gun to your head,
Oh, Hudgens sang soulfully, and most of the female members of the crowd sang along to the chorus.
executioner style, and there won't be no trial. Don't you know that you're better off dead? All I see is red, red, oh red. Now all I see is.
As Penny watched the performance, she subconsciously muttered, "Damn. Being friends with Edward is like getting a first-class ticket to Fame Town. The aspiring actresses around Penny perked up at this, their eyes lighting up with a not-so-good idea. One petite blonde woman with an innocent demeanor turned to Penny and asked, "Hey, you're friends with him, right? He waved at you before. Do you think you can introduce me to him? I really want to meet him." Penny was startled and blurted out, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe. Can you get me in too?" "I also want to meet him," another actress chimed in. In the acting industry, there was a lot of competition, and people would do anything to gain a head start.
Hide. Oh, you're so done. Better sleep with one eye open tonight.
Vanessa sang excitedly. Edward moved his shoulders slightly as Abed held his camera in front of him to record his reaction to Vanessa's song.
I see red, red, oh red. Gun to your head, head to your head.
Drones flew up, blending into the night sky.
Executioner style, and there won't be no trial. Don't you know that you're better off dead?
The drones projected the name Nessa into the night sky, alongside a holographic projection of Hudgens' new image.
All I see is red, red, red. Now all I see is red, red.
As Vanessa finished up the song, a firework-like shot erupted from the stage, adding excitement to the finale of her performance. Nessa! 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 The crowd chanted her name as she breathed heavily. Vanessa finally let her tears fall, a mix of joy and relief washing over her. She smiled widely, waving at the crowd with a radiant glow. The emotional moment struck Maggie, who broke into tears for her friend, followed closely by Taylor and Haley, their voices ringing out in unison, "Nessa! We love you!" As Vanessa and the dancers took a graceful bow, the audience erupted into applause. Maggie quickly wiped her tears, her eyes shining with pride as she hugged Vanessa tightly. "You did really great, Ness. Go do your job." "There are 15 more minutes left," Frankie chimed in, a hint of urgency in his voice. "We need to make it in time for Edward to be here at midnight." Maggie leaned in, her voice brimming with excitement. "Gotta go. I'll tell you how proud I am of you and that I love you and all that later. Wait for it. It's coming." "No. Don't," Vanessa whined, but Maggie turned a deaf ear, leaving Vanessa smiling as her eyes followed her friend before she turned to Edward, who was applauding enthusiastically. "Great job. I think I can get my money back." "Maybe," Edward joked, a playful smirk on his face. Vanessa's chin quivered with emotion as she dashed towards him, enveloping him in a bear hug. "Oof. You're so sweaty," Edward chuckled, having expected the embrace. "Shut up. I'm not," Vanessa retorted, not letting him go that easily. "This is my performance outfit," Edward muttered. "Don't get your makeup on it," he added worriedly. 2 years ago, Edward ran from his stage. 2 years ago, Vanessa fell from grace. 2 years ago, Edward lost all of his purpose. 2 years ago, Vanessa lost all of her heart. 2 years ago, Edward was alone in the world. 2 years ago, Vanessa was abandoned by the world. 2 years later, their paths crossed. From the initial meeting of smoking marijuana together at a party, now, their fate has entangled with each other. There's still a lot of work to do. I have a few comments about your performance, Edward said sarcastically, a teasing glint in his eyes, which only served to irritate Vanessa. I dare you to name one thing I did wrong, she shot back, glaring at him. Edward chuckled, relishing the playful banter. Oh, dare I? Nah, I'm not listening, Vanessa insisted, covering her ears and shaking her head. Suddenly, Edward patted her head affectionately, saying, You did great, Vanessa. The sincerity in his voice silenced her, and her lips curled into a genuine smile. After Vanessa's electrifying performance, Claire led her daughter Haley away for a private conversation, seeking a moment of clarity amidst the chaos of the night. He's leaving in a week, Claire stressed, her brow furrowed with concern. Acting on your feelings right now will just make it worse. You're setting yourself up for hurt. She placed a comforting hand on Haley's shoulder, trying to convey her wisdom. Haley stared at the ground, her heart heavy as her mother's words sank in. Just come back with us after the countdown, and you can avoid all of it. Claire gently cupped Haley's face, pulling her close for a tender hug. However, Gloria, eavesdropping nearby, suddenly interjected, breaking up the hug with a fierce determination. No. You don't listen to your mother. Claire gasped in disbelief. Excuse me, but I think I know what I'm talking about. Gloria leaned in closer, her voice intense. And I might think the same, but I saw their eyes. The eyes, Claire. The eyes do not lie. She closed the distance, forcing Claire to look away, uncomfortable under the intense gaze. Just then, Jay appeared, having overheard the escalating argument. Holding his glass of whiskey, which lent him an air of relaxed authority, he chimed in, they should be together and use the time they have left. Maybe it will hurt, but they have to see it through. Dad! Claire exclaimed, flabbergasted by her father's unexpected support for Haley's budding romance. As the trio began to argue, Phil seized the moment to pull Haley away from the fray. Leading Haley away from the trio, he had a private conversation with her. Hey, are you okay? He asked, his voice soothing and calm. Haley nodded slightly, though her expression betrayed her inner turmoil. I'm fine. Are you really? He pressed gently, his affection palpable. Haley hesitated, then admitted, I guess people aren't rooting for us. I expected this. He's awesome, and I'm just, me. Phil took her shoulders in his hands, searching her eyes. Honey, you're awesome too. And Edward knows that, that's why he asked you out. So it doesn't matter what everyone thinks. What do you think? Did you have fun going out with him today? A smile broke through Haley's worries. Yeah. We had a lot of fun. Phil's expression shifted, worry creeping into his gaze. Just having fun with talking, listening, and at most, hand-holding, right? Haley's eyes widened, and she nodded instinctively. Why yeah, definitely. We only talked and played games. And nothing more. He's a gentleman at all times. Phil sighed in relief, pulling her close for a protective hug. Good. You had me worried there. He held her shoulders, looking deeply into her eyes, ensuring she felt his support. Haley's commentary. Damn it, they are going to bring me back home with them. Dad thought of me as her little princess, but this princess needs to ride on the prince's white horse tonight. Haley's smile disappeared as she realized something. Oh my god. That sounds quite sexual. I didn't mean it in that context. She thought of something else and trailed off, although. Commentary ends. Give it up for our great opening act, Nessa. Maggie shouted excitedly, igniting a thunderous cheer from the crowd that echoed the love and admiration for Vanessa. As we approach 2010, the organizers of the party have picked 3 songs that represent the decade. We've invited the artists here, and now, our first guest artist will perform for us. Presenting Britney Spears with the selected song that signifies the decade, Toxic. The crowd erupted into applause, anticipation crackling in the air as the lights dimmed, setting the stage for another performance. However, the silence stretched on for a while, leaving the crowd and Maggie confused. A staff member suddenly rushed to Maggie and whispered something to her. Turning back to the crowd, Maggie said, there seems to be a little mistake. please ignore my previous words. The staff members were anxiously searching for the pop star, but they couldn't find her anywhere. Among the crowd, Sage and Mrs. Henderson sat together at the VIP table, sipping cocktails through straws as they watched the performances. Sage muttered, she's passed out. She can't perform tonight. Mrs. Henderson casually stirred her drink and asked, drugs or alcohol? Both, Sage replied, crushing the ice in her mouth. That Pepper guy is going to faint, Mrs. Henderson muttered curtly. She guessed right, Pepper was already panicking and trying to speak with Brittany's management, but they were shutting him out. I knew it. I knew I should have invited her. Pepper muttered. Harvey glared at Brittany's manager and said, we will get our money back in compensation for this. Sage turned to Mrs. Henderson and asked curiously, do you think he will actually do it? Mrs. Henderson sighed. I know he's feeling really regretful right now. He made plans so complicated and challenging that he couldn't back out of them. Sage added, all because he thought it would take him a few years to date again. While they were talking, two male models walked toward them and placed drinks on their table. Ladies, they said, winking at them. Are you drinking alone? Honey, you're gay, Mrs. Henderson suddenly said, exposing the first model without even looking at him. Sage turned to the other guy and added, you and your sister have been having incestuous sex since you were 15. Both models looked bewildered and hurriedly left the table. Mrs. Henderson and Sage resumed their conversation, and after 5 more encounters with CEOs, tech magnates, and others, all of whom had their secrets exposed, people stopped trying to approach their table. On the stage, Maggie waited for cues from Frankie, and almost 5 minutes had passed. There were only 10 minutes left before the countdown. Edward scrunched his eyebrows and suddenly told Frankie, just call me up there. Otherwise, the concert will be ruined. Taylor walked backstage when she noticed that something was wrong, and managed to caught Edward before he showed himself to the audience. Hey, where's Brittany? Taylor asked. No idea. Edward turned to her and replied. We will need to move up your performance a bit. You will go right after me, is that fine? Edward asked her. Sure. I can do that. Taylor replied easily. All right then. Maggie, do it. Frankie told Maggie to proceed with calling Edward. Maggie announced, we cannot wait anymore, so we're skipping that and are going straight to our climax. Please welcome on stage, your favorite teenager, Edward Newgate. The crowd cheered in excitement as they saw Edward running to the stage. He wore a classic tight white shirt with several top buttons undone and a black jacket which made Enid shout energetically, Edward, I love you. Edward took the microphone from the stand and said casually, I love you too, Enid. Also, Maggie needs to learn more about improv after this. He turned to Maggie and teased her. Enid felt bashful as she was singled out, surrounded by the jealous gazes of the girls around her. Edward joked with the crowd, those who didn't cheer when I walked in and are working for me, you guys are all fired. Maggie was taken aback and replied without using the microphone, I can improv. For Pepper, it was essential for everything to go perfectly, but Edward was relaxed since the event was a company gathering. There were no cameras, no one to impress, just people having a good time. Why do human beings celebrate New Year's Eve? Why do we make resolutions and act like we're going to stick with them? Why does it seem like I'm vamping? Because I am. Edward nodded as he answered his last question, making the crowd laugh. I just need my first act to end 10 seconds before the countdown. Edward exposed himself before returning to his initial topic, New Year's. It's the time when we lie to ourselves and say, I'm not worried about my problems anymore. They won't follow me into next year. I will perform 2 newly written songs tonight. Edward couldn't finish his sentence before the sound of the crowd cheering drowned out his voice. He smiled and said, I'll be starting with one written just for us to kick off our new year more positively. The song is called I Ain't Worried, One Republic. Enjoy. The crowd cheered as the lights began to flicker. Edward grabbed the microphone and whistled a beat casually, doing it live instead of using a prepared soundstage. Edward's mellow voice was infectious.
The time is running out, no need to take it slow.
Ah, it's been a while since I heard him sing live, Jenna muttered. I miss this. Edward tilted the microphone and waved his finger at the camera while posing.
Step into your toe to toe. I should be scared, honey, maybe so.
The band members became his backup singers and harmonized with him. Edward crooned melodiously,
But I ain't worried about it right now. Keeping dreams alive.
2009.
Heroes. I ain't worried about it right now.
The crowd began to mumble the words together during the chorus and swayed their bodies to the song. Katy Perry, Snoop, and Rihanna danced together, feeling the music course through them. Edward opened his arms wide and swayed slightly, singing in a relaxed manner.
Swimming in the floods, dancing on the clouds below. I ain't worried about it.
Edward whistled again, and the crowd was amazed at his impeccable timing. I ain't worried 'bout it. The backup singers echoed as Edward continued whistling. Hey! He took the microphone from the stand and walked to the front of the stage, interacting with the crowd.
I don't know what you've been told, but time is running out, so spend it like it's gold.
The song struck a chord with the partygoers as they felt the anticipation of entering the new year.
I'm living like I'm 90.
Edward sang in a high falsetto voice before lowering it back to normal. Alex scoffed and said, he already has the 9-0 status.
Got no regrets even when I'm broke. Yeah.
Edward nodded slightly, making a statement to everyone that he was going to live his life to the fullest.
I'm at my best when I got something I wanted to steal. Way too busy for them problems and problems to feel. Yeah, no stressing, just obsessing with sealing the deal.
Edward pointed at Haley from the stage, which took her by surprise. Wait. He doesn't mean. Phil scrunched his face as he recalled the lyric and then gasped.
I'll take it in and let it go.
Edward smirked as he sang. Sing it with me, he shouted at the crowd to encourage them to join in. Everyone sang together.
But I ain't worried about it right now.
Edward sang alone.
Keeping dreams alive.
2009.
Heroes.
The crowd echoed.
I ain't worried about it right now.
Edward sang alone.
Swimming in the floods, dancing on the clouds below. I ain't worried about it.
Edward whistled as the background singers and the crowd repeated the lines.
I ain't worried about it.
The beat slowed down, and Edward crooned, ooh.
I ain't worried.
Everyone was transported by his melodious voice, and their stress melted away. They raised their hands and swayed to the beat, barely even noticing that there was 1 minute left on the countdown clock.
I ain't worried about it right now. Keeping dreams alive.
2009.
Heroes. I ain't worried about it right now. Swimming in the floods, dancing on the clouds below. I ain't worried about it.
Edward continued whistling and then sang the last line.
I ain't worried about it. I ain't worried about it.
The crowd cheered in excitement. Phineas nodded in acknowledgement and said, it is a simple song, but his execution is great as always. Edward glanced at the clock and began the countdown. Everyone. 10 seconds before 2010. Let's count down together. 10. 9. 8. Edward added a comment while the crowd counted down, if you want to kiss someone, make sure to have their consent. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. Everyone cheered in excitement, blowing their horns and releasing confetti. The drone changed the 2009 label floating in the sky to 2010 in golden font before the fireworks began. Numerous fireworks shot into the sky, and people were kissing in the audience. Phil and Claire kissed each other. Ted and Frankie, Jay and Gloria, Mitchell and Cam, Pepper and Ronaldo, Alex and Phineas, Elsa and Jacob, Penny with a random girl, and so on. Suddenly, a loud melody from the stage attracted everyone's attention again. Chapter 329, New Year Party Concert Part 5. General POV. While most everyone was distracted by the fireworks and the drone light show, Edward quickly changed his wardrobe on stage. He removed his jacket and shirt, slipping into a dazzling golden sequin tuxedo jacket that he left unbuttoned, wearing nothing underneath. He donned brown sunglasses with golden rims and topped off his look with a white hat that read MMX, representing 2010 in Roman numerals, which made his entire image dripping in swagger. Enid's eyes were glued to the stage the entire time, and she whimpered while fanning her blushing face at the sight of Edward's bare body. It took several minutes for the crowd to calm down as they celebrated the new year. The fireworks sputtered out, and for a moment, the sky became still, with only wisps of white smoke lingering to remind everyone of the fleeting spectacle as the stage lights dimmed. As the spotlight shone on Edward once more, the audience took in his new look with curiosity. Four backup singers stepped onto the stage, dressed in matching outfits similar to Edward's, but each added their own personal flair. Philip Lawrence, one of the original singers for this song. Brody Brown, another original singer. The other two were new talents that Edward found and he signed on to his company, named Girate and Larry. Happy New Year, everyone! We're going to kick off this party with my new single, 24 Karat Magic, which will be released this year, Edward announced through his microphone. The crowd erupted with excitement, cheering wildly. A vibrant sound resonated throughout the venue as Edward's voice filtered through the talkbox, giving it a synthesized quality reminiscent of autotune. He bellowed,
Tonight, I just wanna take you higher.
The background singers harmonized with Edward, singing,
Throw your hands up in the sky. Let's set this party on fire.
The strong opening sent the entire crowd into a frenzy, bursting into cheers once again. The lights flickered like a disco, while the drone light show displayed logos of gold bars, 24 Karat Magic, Edward Newgate, and even his cat. A smooth and funky instrumental backdrop filled the venue, blending synth elements, bass, and a classic disco groove. This combination contributed to the upbeat, retro feel of the song, reminiscent of 1980s and 1990s funk and R&B.
Players, put your pinky rings up to the moon.
Edward sang, dancing in perfect synchronization with the backup singers. His female fans squealed in excitement, the image forever etched in their minds. He flashed a charming smile and waved his fingers at the camera.
Girls, what y'all trying to do?
With a fluid motion, he threw his hand in the air, moving effortlessly with the melody.
24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear. Look out!
Edward grunted mischievously.
Pop, pop, it's showtime. Showtime.
Edward sang, with the background singer echoing his verse energetically, acting as his hype man.
Showtime. Showtime. Guess who's back again?
Edward acted playfully with the background singers, singing as if he were having a conversation with them.
Oh, they don't know. Downtown. Oh, they don't know. Downtown. I bet they know as soon as we walk in. Show up.
He looked at the crowd, singing confidently.
Wearing Cuban links. Yeah. Designer mix. Yeah. Inglewood's finest shoes. Whoop, whoop.
Flexing his designer clothes as he sang, Edward acted coyly, making the girls fall even harder for him. Jenna muttered, Enid. Take more photos. More. Enid was busy snapping pictures with her phone and shouted urgently to her friends, my storage is full. I need a few new phones. Now. Jacob immediately threw his phone to Enid, fearing her reaction.
Don't look too hard, might hurt yourself. Known to give the color red the blues.
Sage excitedly danced along to the song, while Mrs. Henderson simply sat there, sipping her drink. As the melody slowed for the transition, Edward swaggered to the front of the stage alone. The cameraman, Hebed, followed him from below the stage, projecting his performance on screens for those who couldn't see it.
shit. I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Keep up.
Edward confidently spat out facts, making his friends scoff and giggle. A dangerous man who loves cats, Max commented sarcastically. Well, statistically, most evil masterminds have that trait, Hudgens replied as they watched the performance together from the VIP section. Edward continued, pointing at Penny and her group of friends.
So many pretty girls around me and they're waking up the rocket. Keep up. Why you mad? Fix your face. Ain't my fault they all be jacking. Keep up.
Edward sang coyly, irking several people.
Players only. Come on.
He gestured to invite the crowd before bellowing.
Yo, it brings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do?
The choreographed dance prepared for his world tour was unleashed that night.
24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear. Look out. Second verse for the hustlers. Gangsters. Bad bitches and your ugly ass friends.
Edward swaggered to the left side of the stage, facing the VIPs. He pulled back and rejoined the backup singer's circle again.
Can I preach? I cannot preach. I gotta show them how a pimp get it in. First, take your sip, do your dip, spend your money like money ain't shit. Ooh, ooh.
The backup singers chimed in.
Too fresh. Got to blame it on Jesus. Hashtag blessed.
Edward continued gruffly.
Ain't ready for me. I'm a dangerous man with some money in my pocket. Keep up.
Everyone danced together as the New Year's party reached its climax. A few who had come merely as a polite gesture to the rising conglomerate company were genuinely glad they did.
So many pretty girls around me and they're waking up the rocket. Keep up. Why you mad? Fix your face. Ain't my fault they all be jocking. Keep up.
Edward. Woo. Penny yelled as she took off her brassiere from under her dress and spun it into the sky.
Players only. Come on, put your pinky rings up to the moon.
Sweating slightly, Edward unbuttoned his jacket to cool down, but it only made the girls heat up even more.
Girls, what y'all trying to do? What you trying to do?
Edward sang sweetly as he looked in the girls' direction.
24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear. Look out.
Taylor furrowed her eyebrows and muttered venomously, "So is this your New Year's resolution? To become a player?"
Everywhere I go, they be like, ooh, so bad. Everywhere I go, they be like, ooh, so bad. Everywhere I go, they be like, ooh, so bad. Nah.
Edward excitedly jumped before walking to the center of the stage.
Now watch me break it down like
The 80s synth melody became the backdrop for Edward's dance. His smooth and refined movements showcased his skills fully. He danced alone for a while before several b-boy dancers joined him for a complicated choreography. Enid's face turned crimson as she giggled and shouted, feeling faint at the sight of the dancing. Edward she became weak at the knees and almost fell if it hadn't been for Alex catching her. "Snap out of it, Enid. That's just Edward." Alex scolded her. "Absolutely. That's Edward," Enid swooned deliriously. The crowd erupted in thunderous cheers and shouts of amazement. They chanted Edward's name and expressed their affection loudly. "This is straight fire, yo," Snoop remarked, feeling the rhythm and dancing slightly.
what's that sound?
Edward and the background singers moved to the crowd to sing the final verse together.
Come on now. 24 karat magic.
Edward moved his microphone away and complimented Penny, who was dancing intoxicatedly. "That's pretty great."
Fight the feeling, invite the feeling, just put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do?
Edward harmonized while the background dancers sang.
Tell me what you're trying to do. 24 karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear.
A blonde girl approached the security detail guarding the crowd. "Can I go up to the stage and give him a New Year's kiss?" She wanted to kiss Edward, as she knew he hadn't kissed anyone yet. No, the security detail replied curtly. Edward swayed and danced, immersing himself in the rhythm. Then, he popped his shoulder and pulled his blazer swaggeringly as he concluded the performance with a strong finish.
24-karat magic in the air. Head to toe so clear. Look out.
The crowd erupted in applause as Edward finished his performance. Panting slightly, he asked everyone, "What do you guys think about that performance?" The cheers grew even louder. Edward smiled in satisfaction and addressed the audience, "Don't leave yet, there are still a few more performances prepared for tonight. Now, if you'll excuse me, everyone, I have a New Year's kiss to make up for." The crowd jeered teasingly and laughed at Edward's joke. The girls shouted incessantly, "I volunteer! I volunteer," and they almost stormed the stage, which really troubled the security there. Maggie jumped onto the stage, regaining control of the crowd before announcing the next act in the lineup for the evening. As Edward and his crew made their way backstage, they celebrated their success with fist bumps. "That's tight, man." "One more week, bigger venue, bigger stage," Philip said excitedly. The other singers shared in the enthusiasm, except for Larry. "Well, I don't really like Japan. Can't we go to, like, Tokyo or something?" Edward looked at him in disbelief, pausing halfway as he changed into a shirt, while Girate, whose real name was Clarence, smacked the back of Larry's head and said, "That is in Japan, you idiot." "Hey, Top G, who's the Jesus and the nerd?" Brody asked, eyeing the newcomers who had walked onto the stage. One of them was a bearded white dude with long hair and another one looked quite kind. "You're calling a bunch of nobodies here today?" Larry added with an ironic expression. Edward smirked and teased, "Well, they have more experience than you, Larry, so I guess you're the only nobody here." Maggie announced, introducing Tiny Tempa and Eric Turner with the song, "Written in the Stars." The crowd was skeptical at first, but Eric's sudden start to the song immediately captured their attention. Still buzzing from Edward's earlier performance, the duo was welcomed warmly as they launched into their song. Snoop focused intently on Tiny and said, "I think Ed mentioned that dude used to be a school teacher. Now he's a rapper." Ed picked him up from the street. Eminem's eyes lit up as he asked, "Oh, street battle style?" "I don't know his style yet. But since Newgate called him to the stage, maybe there's something there," Snoop smirked. "Maybe I can bring him to open for me someday." Katie stood dizzily, continuously topping up the alcoholic drink in her hand. "When did you guys suddenly have twins?" she slurred, her vision blurring as she saw two Snoops and two M&Ms. Then, she fell flat on her chair, fully blacked out. Agent Sarah Walker grimaced slightly upon seeing Katie. "Brittany didn't pass out because I gave her a shot of this pure stuff, right?" she muttered to herself, hiding the bottle of Euphoria in her hand, which only had a little bit of the solution left inside. "Anyway, mission accomplished," she murmured, observing that many of the VIPs had already passed out and were being escorted inside the mansion. Most of them headed straight home, but those who had driven themselves needed to sleep it off at the venue. Fortunately, there were plenty of bedrooms in the 30,000 square foot mansion. Edward POV. I waited for the next performance to start before heading back to the VIP section. It felt polite to linger backstage for a while. I didn't want to disrupt the crowd or interfere with the duo's introduction. Suddenly, I noticed Abed climbing the light pole, trying to capture footage of the concert from the crowd's perspective. Mickey was the only one guarding me as I walked back. There weren't many security risks aside from the party girls, and none of my employees would approach me in a mob. "Can you call Abed for a moment?" I asked Mickey for a favor. He sighed, knowing he had to weave through the huge crowd, but he went anyway. "Go, just head straight to your table. Don't stop. I can't protect you if you stop," he advised. I waved my hand dismissively and replied, "It's fine. Don't worry about me making pit stops. Oh, and ask Abed to bring Annie and Britta with him." I haven't seen them at the party yet, and I want to see Britta in that shirt. Already walking toward Abed, Mickey stopped abruptly and turned to me. Why? Is it a sexy shirt? Absolutely sexy. The sexiest shirt at the entire party. Your jaw will definitely drop, I replied, my eyes sparkling with excitement. Mickey's grin widened at my enthusiasm. My head of security had developed a crush on Britta after meeting her a few times at Dr. Fowler's lab. Jeff, Pierce, and Troy had returned to Colorado for Christmas, but Annie and Britta had stayed behind. Annie took a part-time job at my company to justify her decision, which also included looking after Britta. After nearly being cast in a softcore nude film, Annie swore she would never let Britta go anywhere alone. Abed worked unofficially with the production crew but still got paid for his efforts. He was reluctant to return to Colorado to finish his community college, wanting instead to move here permanently, which made me troubled. I walked straight to where my friends were and smiled as I saw them. Gloria excitedly rushed towards me and gave me a tight hug. Edward. I love that dance. She separated and danced a bit, albeit awkwardly. Relax your shoulders a bit, Gloria. I taught her the dance for a moment, which made her burst into laughter. Edward, that was a really great performance. Happy New Year, Eddie. I hope your year is filled with happiness, Claire said as she hugged me. Phil added with a laugh, oh, ho. I finally got what that hat means. MEX stands for, he hesitated for a moment. I finished his sentence, and he acted as if he had known all along. 2010 in Roman numerals / 2010 in Romania Euro numeral. Alex looked at her dad with disdain and said, what's Romania Euro numeral? Alex, your dad clearly said Roman numeral. Did the loud sounds from the party hurt your ears? I replied with a concerned expression, leaving Alex flabbergasted. Mitchell whispered to Cam, he's trying to get his future girlfriend's dad to like him. Cam whispered back, Phil already loves him. He should have aimed for the mother. We all heard that. Claire squinted angrily as she turned to glare at the two. Now that the pleasantries are out of the way, you should go to Haley. I know you're only talking to us because you don't see her, Jay suddenly interjected, his face flushed from drink. Where did she go? I smiled awkwardly, realizing I had basically announced to the entire party that I was going to kiss a girl, yet I didn't even know where she was. Claire grinned mischievously and said, oh, she's sitting right there, pointing to a table. I followed her finger and gasped in disbelief as I saw Haley sitting awkwardly between Sage and Mrs. Henderson. Claire's commentary. Try to do something in front of your teachers, she challenged. Only the boldest, most courageous, or the stupidest person in the world would actually try. After calming herself from laughing, she whispered looking down, Phil was not on board with the plan. Commentary ends. Oh, finally. I started to walk toward Haley, but Claire grabbed my arm urgently. Edward, the party is great, but I think it's time for us to go home. I was taken aback. Wait. Really? Yeah. Alex looks quite tired. Claire said sympathetically. Alex, flabbergasted again, exclaimed, no, I'm not. I took a 4-hour nap this afternoon. Sorry. I meant Luke. Luke is definitely tired. Where is he, anyway? Claire looked around, suddenly uneasy as she glanced at my friends. Wait, where are Manny and Luke? Cam asked, sharing Claire's concern. Weren't they with you guys? Gloria was alarmed and panicked. Huh? They're with you. They weren't hanging out with us, Alex replied. Phil immediately shouted, looky, in an effort to locate his missing son. Jacob spoke up shyly, there's a huge arcade room in the basement. I'm pretty sure I saw them there when I checked it out. Let's go. Gloria grabbed Jay's hand and pulled him along as she stomped toward the mansion. Phil and Claire followed suit. Mitchell offered his help and tagged along, we'll check the other floors. And maybe hit the bathroom first because I've been drinking 10 of these strawberry daiquiris, Cam commented, hurrying after Mitchell with his knees bent closely together. I was confused, we don't have strawberry daiquiris. What the hell has he been drinking? Seeing her parents leaving, Haley excused herself from the table and quickly returned to us, eager to see what was happening and to get out of there. Haley's commentary. I sat there for 2 minutes. It was the greatest suffering of my life. I can use that moment if I ever need to write a college essay about the greatest suffering I went through. It was New Year's Eve. I had to sit in between the school teacher awkwardly for 2 minutes. She trailed off and finished unconfidently, "Well, I'm not going to write the essay now. I will put in a lot more words when I need to do it. Or ask Alex to write it for me." Commentary ends. As Haley approached me, I smiled and gently took her hand. "Happy New Year." She leaned in closer and gave me a soft peck on the lips right in front of my friends. Enid groaned in disgust, her face contorting with distaste. "That's a child's kiss," Jacob commented. "Kiss for real," Billy scolded. "Oh, Top G is finally getting some." Clarence and Larry walked by, teasing me loudly. Haley looked confused by their comments. "Top G?" she asked. "Why are they calling you Top G? Is it Top Gun?" Jacob guessed. "Nope. It's actually Top Gate," I explained with a smirk. Haley let out an understanding sigh. "Ah, because you can beat Bill Gates in a bare-knuckle fight?" "Obviously," I replied matter-of-factly. "It's scary how you managed to guess that instantly." I chuckled a bit as I looked at her. "Wait. That's really it?" Alex asked, looking incredulous. I nodded and explained, "Yeah. It started with New G, then N-Gate, then Kid Money, and finally NBG, New Bill Gates. I protested against that, so it became Top G. N-Gate is kind of an awesome nickname, I'm not going to lie," Phineas said. "Thanks, F-word," I nodded at him, which made him flustered, and everyone laughed. Jenna chimed in, "Yeah, F-word." "Ha ha. You're the F-word," Billy teased her brother. "Okay, I think it's an appropriate time to share my New Year's resolution. I'm not going to be the butt of the joke anymore," Phineas declared with determination. "Whatever, F-word," Elsa dismissed him with a smirk. Well, Enid fainted when she saw Edward's abs on stage. Phineas tried to move the heat to someone else. "Really?" My eyes lit up as I looked at her. Haley furrowed her eyebrows and asked with a laugh, "Why are you so happy about that?" Enid giggled and said, "My knees got weak a little bit." "Oh. There is the validation I wanted for a long time." I finally breathed in relief and hugged Enid slightly. My hard work in sculpting my body was finally justified. Everyone laughed again as I said that. "Let's go, I want to meet everyone else," I told Jacob and Phineas while holding Haley's hand. My football team had come with their dates, and I was eager to meet them. However, Jacob sadly informed me they left immediately after your performance in their rented limo. Wait, they already left? I felt a pang of disappointment. This party would be my last chance to have a conversation with them before I left for the world tour. Haley caught my change in expression. "I wonder why they are in such a hurry." Haley muttered, trying to comfort me by patting my arm. "I don't know. Tyler only sent me some emojis when I asked." Jacob replied casually. "What emoji?" Elsa scrunched her face and asked. Jacob read the text again, out loud this time, tongue out emoji. "Peach peach eggplant eggplant, drizzle drizzle, and..." "It's just random." Everyone stared at Jacob for a while. "What?" Jacob was confused by the reaction. Chapter 330, New Year Party Concert Part 6. Edward POV. "We should hide in the house," Haley urged, pulling my arm. She didn't want her parents to take her home early. "This is why no one should go to a party with their parents," Jenna scoffed teasingly. I rolled my eyes and pointed toward the concert. "Yeah, because no one wants to see their mother grinding provocatively with a hunky topless guy at a party." "What?" Jenna's eyes widened in horror as she turned to look where I was pointing. Instead of her mother, she saw a random girl doing just that. Jenna shot me a glare, and I smirked. Why? I never said it was your mom. She's inside the house, doing who knows what. Jenna puffed her cheeks sulkily. Oh, it's Sal, Haley muttered, realizing who I was pointing at. I took a second glance and exclaimed, oh my god, it really is her. I thought it was a stripper. That reminds me, I need to talk to her about something. Hey, my mom is asking me to go to the car now, Jacob said with a sad sigh before I could walk away. Elsa chimed in, yeah, my mom wants me to go home too. She told me to go back with Jenna, and she's coming to pick me up at her house. Wait. So I have to go back too? Jenna looked bewildered at Elsa. Enid added with a slight protest, my mom too. Can you believe them? Phineas and Billy's parents were at the party as well, and it seemed their time was up too. It's because you guys are all kids, I teased, prompting a chorus of protests. We're the same age. Jacob raised his hand. Boo. Jenna and Elsa both gave me thumbs down. Where is Tara? Enid mumbled, looking around. My mom told me to bring her with me. I turned to Haley, who had been hanging out with Tara before. She's enjoying the concert with our friends. The last time I saw her, Haley shrugged. Edward, are you going back up there? Phineas asked suddenly. I nodded, yeah, at the end. Maybe an hour from now. Alex grumbled, so we have to miss it because Mom wants to stop you guys from doing it? Haley looked flabbergasted, while I chuckled. Yeah, absolutely, I replied, and Haley blushed. I really want to stay, Jacob whined, interrupting the conversation. Elsa added, me too. I want to stay, but my parents won't let me. I want to stay too, Enid said, grabbing my arm. Can't you talk to our parents? Flabbergasted, I responded, I'm not going to. They're worried about you and want to protect you. I respect that. I'm not going to manipulate them into letting you stay. I turned to Haley. And that includes you. Really? Haley whined, her eyes sad. Are you sure you don't want me to stay? I smirked and gently guided her away from my friends for a private conversation. I want you to stay. Then why don't you want to talk to my mom? Haley asked sulkily. I could, but even I know that manipulating a mother to let her daughter stay and then have my way with her is morally wrong. It's degenerate behavior. I'm not going to do that. I said calmly, brushing her hair behind her ear and placing my hand affectionately on her cheek. General POV. After Luke and Manny were found, the family returned to the outdoor party. Claire noticed Edward and Haley talking from afar. She hesitated to call out to them, observing the way they looked at each other. Instead, she pulled Alex aside and whispered, "What's that all about?" Alex grumbled, "A farewell, maybe." "Wait, so, Haley is going home?" Claire asked, confused. "They're not trying to stay?" Alex looked at her with disbelief. "Mom, you know that Edward really respects you, right?" Claire was taken aback, and Phil joined in, listening to the conversation. Alex continued, "You said you want to take us home." He's not going to argue with that, although it will be dangerous for him. That's great, what do you mean dangerous for him? Claire felt relieved at first but then became skeptical. Her nerves were telling her that Alex had done this on purpose, but she couldn't help but take the bait. Rich, tall, hot, very influential single guy at a party with a lot of aspiring actresses and fame seekers. He won't get out of the party alive, Alex sighed, glancing at Edward with concern. Phil gasped. They will kill him? What? No, Phil. Claire stammered before turning her attention back to Alex. I think you're exaggerating. Besides, his dad won't let anything happen to him. Alex's commentary. Although I hate the idea that Haley is dating one of my friends, I've been watching Edward for a while and read a lot of psychology books. I wanted to see if I could be like him and nudge my parents into seeing things my way, she gleefully said. If I nail this, then there will be no more curfew, she giggled. And I can read my books all night long in my room without them asking me to socialize more. Commentary ends. Watch where his dad is sitting, Alex said, guiding Claire with her index finger. Claire followed it to see Ted sitting with a group of older women. They were giggling and touchy with him as he sat there with an uncomfortable smile on his face. Is that the woman from The Sopranos? Claire widened her eyes in disbelief, seeing the curly-haired woman flirtatiously touching Ted's bicep and leaning closer as she laughed. Dri Di Matteo, Alex explained, pushing her glasses upward. On Ted's left is Eva Amuri. Most of them are single TV actresses, but there are a few married women making googly eyes at him too. The women were dressed provocatively, showing Ted what they could do with their tongue, trying hard to get him to fall for them. If they couldn't target Edward, Ted was the second best choice. Claire was confused by the scene in front of her. What does this have to do with Edward? Nice timing. Watch. Alex pointed as Frankie walked toward the table, ready to rescue Ted from the clutches of the thirsty Hollywood hyenas. They scattered immediately, as if fearing her, and went off in search of another target. Just like pigeons, Alex commented with disdain. She turned to Claire. Look at them now. She pointed at Haley and Edward, who were still gazing at each other. And look at the girls nearby. Alex added, and Claire turned to see several girls intently watching Edward, waiting for him to be alone so they could strike up a conversation. So, Haley's like his shield, Phil muttered in understanding. Alex nodded. Once the shield is gone, it's open season for some fresh Edward meat. Claire gasped. Alex. That's very sexual. Phil and Alex looked confused. Phil explained, honey, it's like deer meat that was hunted. They're not going to eat him. I didn't mean. Claire stammered, hesitating before giving up and saying, there's still another option. Edward can go home with us. Oh, that would be nice, Phil exclaimed in relief. Alex shook her head. No, he can't. Right, he can't. Phil agreed immediately without even hearing the reason. Well, I'm going home, and I'm bringing all of my children with me. If Edward needs another shield, I know for sure he can find someone else, just not Haley, to be one for him. Claire said decisively before walking toward Edward and Haley. Alex cursed quietly. Damn. I thought it would work. Where did I go wrong? So, nothing is going to happen at the party? Haley asked, her eyes sad. Edward chuckled. Nah, something is going to happen here. What? She asked excitedly. What's going to happen? We can sneak out and do stuff. Nothing of that sort, Edward interrupted, grabbing her hand. He looked into her eyes and asked, Haley, would you be my girlfriend? Claire froze as she heard him, just as she was almost at Haley and Edward. Phil, following behind, was calling for them. Immediately, Claire grabbed Phil, cupped his mouth, and walked away, trying to hide her presence. Claire's commentary. I know that I should stop this. I don't know why I did that. Maybe I want to see how things play out. Commentary ends. Haley grinned widely, almost nodding her head yes, when she suddenly remembered something. Her eyes lowered, and she replied, can I take my time to think about this? Edward was taken aback, not expecting that. Oh, okay, he stammered awkwardly, and the air around them turned tense. I think I heard my mom calling for me, Haley said, letting go of Edward's hand as she walked over to Alex. Haley immediately called her friend Tara, who picked up during the intermission between the performances. I need a drink, Edward muttered, watching her leave. Claire and Phil exchanged confused glances at the sudden turn of events. Before Edward could process it, Mickey poked his shoulder to get his attention. You lied to me, he said sadly. You told me her dress was going to be sexy. Just then, Abed, Britta, and Annie approached Edward. Britta wore a simple beige shirt that stood out in the crowd, emblazoned with capitalism is sexy on the front and I heart capitalism. We should give billionaires more tax breaks on the back. Britta had a sour expression as she stopped right in front of Edward. I've been wearing this all day. Can I take it off now? She tugged at the edge of the shirt, eager to rip it off if he said yes. Britta, you're not wearing anything underneath, Annie reminded her, her tone sweet yet concerned. Annie wore a modest one-piece long dress and a lower knee slit. Abed didn't wait for Edward to respond to Britta, saying, "Mind if I go first? Why are you calling me here?" "I need to record more of the performances." "Sorry, Britta." "Abed's thing is more urgent," Edward replied, turning to Abed, which made Britta grunt in dissatisfaction. "Abed, why are you recording other things?" "I need footage of the performances to see which aspects I can improve," Edward said, a slight scolding tone in his voice. "Hey, you made me the director. Don't question my creative process," Abed shot back defensively. "If there's nothing else, I have to go back to record your ex-girlfriend's performance now." With that, he left. Edward sighed as he watched Abed hurry away and turned back to Britta. "So, how is it?" "It's horrible," Britta sighed, frustrated. "No one would listen to me, even when I tried to explain that I don't believe this. They yelled at my face and threw stuff at me." "So, I was right," Edward said with a chuckle. "Yeah, you were right," Britta replied helplessly. "What did you guys argue about?" Annie asked curiously. "Well, Annie, it all started when Britta maliciously tried to guilt-trip me into doing more than I was already doing for charity." Edward grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and downed it in one shot before she could warn him it was alcoholic. Never mind." The waitress quickly snatched the empty glass back, hurrying away, not wanting to be fired from her job. Britta licked her lips thirstily, glancing at the drink, almost reaching out for it before stopping herself. She couldn't risk compromising her brain's activity during her treatment. That meant no coffee, no drinking, no sex, no TV, and no other colorful entertainment until she finished her regimen. It was hard for her since her life revolved around those things, but Annie made sure Britta didn't indulge in any substances. Annie had wrestled her to the ground, put her in a straitjacket, even considered muzzling Britta to make her conform, which made Britta have nightmares about it till this day. "She maliciously tried to guilt-trip you?" Annie muttered innocently, turning to Britta, who was still eyeing the champagne longingly. Annie's eyes narrowed dangerously, which made Britta flinch a bit before she focused back on the conversation. Edward nodded. "Yeah. We got into a debate, and since she forgot she's barely sane right now because of me, I made her wear that shirt to celebrate what made it all possible. I only told him he should focus more charity efforts on the rainforest during a passing conversation, and he took that personally," Britta explained with a deadpan expression. "Don't put your aspirations on me, Britta. I can't be what you expect me to be. I'm fighting several causes at once, and I can't take on more," Edward replied, grabbing another champagne from the same waitress. As she filled her tray, he took 2 glasses and downed both instantly. "Are you okay, Edward?" Annie asked, a bit concerned. Edward nodded. "Yeah, just a little anxious. Anyway, I told Britta she could explain to others if they asked her about that shirt." Britta sighed. "But no one would want to have a conversation with me, they'd avoid me like the plague. This is just about capitalism. Imagine what would happen if you said, gay marriage shouldn't be legal or meat is not murder or even I hate fat people. People won't even try to speak to you, they'll only shout at you because you don't conform to their worldview, making you their enemy." Britta shuddered at the thought. She grabbed the edge of her shirt again and asked, "Can I take this off now or not?" "You can. Go change," Edward agreed easily. Britta smiled in excitement, dancing awkwardly. "After I change, it's finally going to be party time." "Oh yeah." Ignoring Britta's bizarre dance moves, Edward turned to Annie and asked, "How's the company been treating you so far?" "Oh, it's awesome," Annie replied gleefully. "Not only will this be a good addition to my resume, but I can even transfer to a college here in California through the company's scholarship program." "We have a scholarship program?" Edward asked in shock. Annie looked taken aback. "You didn't know?" "Nah, I'm just kidding." Edward chuckled, making Annie sigh in relief before laughing. As Edward talked with Annie, Haley and Tara returned to their original table, where they spoke privately. Edward noticed Tara pointing at him, disbelief etched on her face, which made him even more anxious. Annie continued, Excel is pretty hard, but I'm learning it slowly. Excel? I can teach you, Edward offered, his mind drifting. Annie perked up. Wait, you would teach me? Yeah, just pop by my house. I'll show you some Excel shortcuts you can use for work, Edward replied casually. Annie blushed. You're inviting me over? I thought you already had a date. Why does having a date have to do with work? Edward furrowed his brow in confusion. Annie quickly agreed, oh. It's for work. Yeah. I'll definitely come over. I already know where you live. Edward sensed something was off in the conversation, but before he could react, Britta grabbed Annie's hand and pulled her away. I'm sorry. I can't wait anymore. I need my change of clothes, and it's in Annie's purse. I think I put my purse inside the house, Annie replied, reluctant to leave. But Britta persisted, you guys can continue talking when I get back. It'll be easier for me to go with you, Annie, than to look for it by myself. Oh, bye, Edward. See you tomorrow. I'll text you, Annie stammered as she waved goodbye. Look. Tara whispered, pointing at Annie as she left. He dated her too before, right? Just once. And they didn't do anything, Haley grumbled, rolling her eyes, dissatisfied with her friend's observation. Tara was frustrated by Haley's behavior and insisted, not what I mean. What I mean is that he has options. He's not asking you out of pity. He's asking you to be his girlfriend because he likes you. No, Haley replied curtly. If he liked me, he wouldn't ask me to become his girlfriend. She shook her head slightly in despair, leaving Tara baffled. That's like the opposite of what he would do if he liked you, Tara muttered in confusion just as her mother called for her. I'll be right back. You mull it over some more, let some other girls take a crack at Edward first and see if they can become his girlfriend, she said sarcastically, prompting Haley to curse under her breath, bitch. One thing Edward forgot was to clarify his curse status with Haley. She had kept that secret for a while, not even telling her best friend, making it hard for her to explain to Tara why she thought Edward asking her to be his girlfriend was a bad thing. She felt he didn't really care about her if he would inflict the curse upon her too. As Tara left, Haley lowered her head, contemplating the matter seriously, when she suddenly found herself surrounded by two people she didn't want to see the most at the party, Sage and Mrs. Henderson. Are you having some problems? Sage asked, sitting down next to Haley. Haley immediately stood up, her eyes shaky as she stammered, I have too. Sit down, Mrs. Henderson ordered coldly. Haley plopped back down obediently. Yes, ma'am, she said, surrendering to her fate. Flashback, 10 minutes ago. Sage had asked Henderson while sipping her cocktail, Edward has broken free of the self-destructive talent, but now he's in real trouble. Henderson nodded slightly in agreement. How does he logically and rationally tell his date that it's gone? He is now curse-free. The answer is, you don't. We're lucky that he only told one person about it, Sage smirked, looking at Henderson. You know, I love hanging out with you when you're inebriated. We should do it again sometime. Don't get your hopes up, Mrs. Henderson replied coldly. Did you bring it? She asked. Sage clutched her purse. Yeah, I do. I guess this will be my last help to him as his first guardian. Now that he's growing up, he won't need me anymore, Mrs. Henderson said. Present time. Haley, why don't you get your fortunes read for the new year? Mrs. Henderson suggested, pointing at Sage. What? Haley was confused by the invitation. Sage took out a deck of tarot cards from her purse and said, Come on. It will be fun. For you, no charge. You're charging people? Haley retorted, then sighed. You know what, this might seem rude, but I don't have time for this. She slowly tried to stand up, but Sage smirked. Really? Too bad. Edward got his destiny read a few days ago. Haley sat down again, her interest piqued. How can I get my fate read? Sage laughed slightly, placing the deck of cards on the table. Shuffle it before picking 3 cards. Haley complied, intrigued. Edward noticed the commotion and became confused. As he watched them, he suddenly heard Taylor talking into the microphone and turned his attention to the stage. Haley drew 3 cards from the deck and laid them in front of her. However, her second and third cards fell together. In a hurry, she picked up the 2 that fell to complete her trio. Sage took the remaining cards. Flip the first one over. It's the Fool, Haley said, slumping as she read the card. Haley's commentary. Okay, so even the cards are insulting me. Commentary ends. Sage nodded. Although it might seem offensive, this card is the best you could hope for in this new year. Haley perked up. Really? Sage held the card between her fingers, showing it to Haley. The Fool represents new beginnings, having faith in the future, being inexperienced, not knowing what to expect. It doesn't show that you're dumb, but more like a blank slate. Haley was absorbed by the reading. Should I flip the second card now? Sure, Sage replied, her air of mystery growing. It's the Empress, Mrs. Henderson muttered, slightly shocked by Haley's fate. What? Is it bad? Haley asked urgently. Sage was momentarily taken aback before smiling. Oh, Eve is surprised because this card symbolizes fertility, abundance, and nurturing. Huh? Haley was dumbfounded. I'm going to get pregnant, she asked in shock. Thankfully, the card follows the Fool, so the meaning is a bit different, Sage explained, making Haley breathe a sigh of relief. So what does it mean? Following the Fool, it may indicate that the new journey you're on will be a path of abundance, growth, and creative potential. Sage said mysteriously. I noticed that the cards fell together with the third one. So it could still be about pregnancy, she added seriously. Haley sweated slightly, turning her attention to the third card. Sage opened it to reveal the lovers. Haley grinned widely. So, I'm going to find a boyfriend? Not quite, Sage said, deflating Haley's happiness. But it is connected. The lovers represent choices in harmony. In this card placement, the Fool, the Empress, and the lovers mean that journeys initiated by the Fool will lead to meaningful connections or important choices in love and in life. Haley fell into deep thought before asking, how accurate is the reading? Sage smirked. That's not how it works. The cards provide guidance, they cannot tell you completely what your fate will be. Mrs. Henderson quipped, but since Sage is the one who did this, then it will be 99% accurate. Sage was baffled by Henderson's remark. Haley's eyes glittered as she basked in the happiness before she asked meekly, then. Can you tell me what Edward got when he did this? Sage smiled. I cannot tell you. But it has something to do with his cursed love life and the reversal of fortune, which means his dark days are over. When did he do this? Haley stammered slightly and her heart beat quicker. Around Christmas time. Sage replied. Haley thought about it and said, that's when he started to, I need to go. Thank you, Miss Anna. And you too, Mrs. Henderson. Haley grabbed Sage and kissed her on the cheek, but failed to do the same thing with Mrs. Henderson as she pulled her head back. She rushed to the house after telling her mother that she needed to use the bathroom. I'll grab my stuff and meet you guys at the car. Haley told her parents before leaving. Oh, okay, honey. We will say goodbye first and then meet you there. Claire replied awkwardly. As soon as Haley left, Claire asked Phil, did I do this? Did I ruin her thing with Edward? Phil replied, I hate to be the one to say this, Claire, but you definitely did. Edward suddenly received a text message from Haley, asking him to meet her in their room before she would go home. However, as soon as Edward entered through the door, Haley grabbed him and kissed him. I do want to be your girlfriend, she said after separating for a while, her hand still wrapped around his neck. But before that, you need to show me that you really like me, she said before she started to kiss his neck. Edward smiled and said, "That won't be a problem." He took off his coat and pulled her close. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha System in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Transmigrated to a Medieval Pokémon World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if Reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if Reborn in Naruto World, continuation? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top pick and start working on that series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.